I think we should remove that line representation on the ballot at least, because
I get people who say to me, you know, I say, hi, I'm Rob Astorino, I'm running for county executive, or hope you vote for me, and they say Republican or Democrat.
Yeah.
And I write then or there, I say, you know what, to me that's a little closed-minded, because I'm going to tell you who I am and what I've done, and then you decide if you like what I've done or what I stand for. Yeah. Because right away, if you say Republican or Democrat, they have images, national images or whatever.
Right.
And that's not always the case here.
That's really strange. And recently, of course, we had some primaries on independence.
Yeah.
And that, I actually be serving as a poll watcher and so on. I really felt bad about it, because the whole independence primary 2 years ago, it's only 50-some people voted. You know how many people worked on the polling places?
In the city of Yonkers, a Democratic primary for a city council.
Yeah.
There's 7 city council members in the city of Yonkers. 200,000 people in that city.
Yeah.
For a city council Democratic primary in a Democratic district, 300 votes won.
Exactly. That's
300 votes.
My point is that.
So you have people who are not participating in the democratic process, and as such, you know, there are a lot of people who probably should, on both sides, Republicans, Democrats, in all different positions,
no, these
who
kind
probably
of
shouldn't be running for office,
right.
But they're in office because nobody's paying attention or nobody cares.
Right.
And that's not to say everybody, of course, but hopefully people will get more active in this process, because what we do on a county level, what happens in the town of Somers or Yorktown or your local village or town or city, matters to you.
Exactly.
And if you don't get involved, like this issue we're dealing with housing and urban development in the federal government, you have an extraordinarily aggressive federal government that wants to dictate to local communities how their land use and how their properties and how their zoning will be. And you know, if people don't believe that, then you're going to be shocked a few years down the road when your neighborhood begins to change and you have an apartment building in your neighborhood because federal bureaucrats marched into the county and nobody said or did anything about it. Now, I have been absolutely fighting for our communities and their right to have, under the New York State Constitution, your local zoning board, your local town board and planning board,
has to be protected.
People in your community have the right to plan and zone for yourself in your community. The federal government is saying that zoning restrictions, anything in a zoning code that restricts height, density, acreage, water or sewer availability, number of bedrooms permitted, those restrictions are discriminatory. Even quarter-acre zoning, in the federal government's view, is discriminatory. And by the way, if there's anyone watching this who disbelieves me, please go to westchestergov.com and click on the housing settlement link on the homepage and read the letters from HUD. On May 13th of 2011, March 13th of this year, they spell it out right there. This is what they're attacking.
And I was appalled by the fact that from 750 units, they sort of agreed with the
settlement
county.
From 2009 by Mr.
Simply
Spano.
adds 10,000. And now because 10,700 units.
This is what the deal is. The federal government says that zoning and discrimination are the same thing. They are not. There has been no proof whatsoever. In fact, all of the studies have shown that all of our communities are building affordable housing, that there's plenty of zoning districts in each community that sets aside multifamily housing, accessory apartments, higher density housing. But there are also neighborhoods set aside, as there should be, for single-family residential on half-acre, quarter-acre, 1 acre, whatever. That's up to the local community in their land use. As long as they provide
and also the land around
housing.
The reservoir, the protecting the water.
It's protected for the drinking water. But as long as each community is doing its part for affordable housing, and they are and have been, then we're fine. What the federal government is saying, any restrictions in zoning codes that limit height and density and acreage in any of these neighborhoods is unfair, is discriminatory, is segregation, all that stuff, which is nonsense. So zoning permits or prohibits what can be built, not who lives there. It's a huge, huge distinction. The biggest impediment to anyone owning property in Westchester are the taxes
Right.
and spending, and price of homes. That's it. But the federal government doesn't see it that way. And so what they're trying to do is to force the county to sue our municipalities to overturn zoning, to force a federal rule that if you accept federal money, that the federal government has the right to come in here and to impose different zoning regulations or to send the Department of Justice in.
Yeah.
So if people don't think this is true, or you don't think that you think we're exaggerating, please read these letters. I wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that was published in early September.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
And the flags went up around the country because HUD is starting to go in there into different communities.
Yeah, it's the fact that they want to use Westchester as a first guinea pig.
That's the grand experiment. That was their quote.
Certainly,
That's right.
Other people should be alert. But
it's really important because it really comes down to, should local communities determine how their communities are made up and built, or should bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.?
Right.
And by the way, I am extraordinarily proud that Westchester is the 4th most diverse county in all of New York. We have, of our almost 1 million people, 23% or 230,000 are Hispanic, 14% are African American. I think that's a great thing. And that's happening naturally.
Right.
People are moving into this county because they want to.
Yeah.
They're moving where they can afford to live, without the federal government dictating how communities are going to be built or who's living where. And so I am proud of this county for a zillion ways. And we'll continue to build affordable housing, but we're going to do it our own way, not the way the federal government is telling us to.
So on this issue, I know you've been passionately sort of defending and fighting. What is the long-term sort of outlook? You think they will back out?
I will defend this county as long as I'm in office. Former County Executive Spano in 2009
basically give in.
Well, he did give in, and he signed a settlement with the federal government that is requiring us to build 750 units of what's called fair and affordable housing throughout Westchester in 31 eligible communities. We're spending at least $51 million to do it. It'll probably be double that. And we're actually building them. We have almost 400 of the 750 done. We're well ahead of schedule, a year ahead of schedule as part of the benchmarks for this settlement. We've got to be done by 2016. And we're doing that because we're working very cooperatively with our communities. We're not going in and threatening. We're not going in and bullying. We're not going in and suing communities. And by the way, let's use a little logic here. If communities did not permit affordable housing like the federal government's insisting, how could we be building them as a right in these communities without any zoning changes?
Right.
400 are already in. So it's nonsense what they're trying to do. And I know, my opponent and some are saying we should capitulate, we should compromise with the federal government. Not on this. I'll compromise on a lot of things where it makes sense. But I'm going to stand on principle. I'm going to make sure that our county and our communities are protected, and that under the Constitution of New York, it's going to be local communities that are going to determine land use and not the federal government.
Right. But do you think the federal government's action is somewhat related to who is sort of at the top as a
well,
executive?
I'm not going to be partisan on this, but there's no question that the Obama administration's view is very different than mine on this. There's no question.
Yeah.
And that they have determined that we're going to be the test case, and that in their view, every neighborhood has to be racially and socially, economically balanced. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what they're charging. I think most people in this county say, come on in. I don't care who you are. Come into my neighborhood.
Right.
If you can afford it.
Yeah.
I live in a neighborhood where I can afford to live. And everyone in my neighborhood can afford that house on that quarter-acre piece of property like is my neighborhood. If you could afford more than that, God bless you. But I don't want the federal government saying that when that property next to me goes for sale, that
we can put up a
the
high
federal
rise.
government or the county or the town or the state or a developer can buy that piece of property next door and put whatever they want on there. I moved into a neighborhood that's single family, just like most people have if they own a house, and they want to know that when a house goes up for sale, it's going to remain a house.
That's amazing, yeah. Because even China, a communist country, if you go in there, you look at they're building lots of infrastructures,
Yeah.
but they have zonings.
That's right.
They have all these high-rise are restricted in a certain way. They must have rules about the supply of water, supply of
That's
electricity, and supermarkets, traffic patterns, all of that. Amazing. They have few million people live in these high-rise orderly.
Right.
But imagine you don't have zoning.
Look, you know what I never knew that watershed protection and protecting water was discriminatory. But apparently the federal government is saying that we can't use that as an excuse that there's no sewer systems or public water supply on some properties in northeastern Westchester, which is the watershed protected. They're saying that the county or the town is using that as an excuse to not build high-density housing. You know, it's illogical, the argument that the federal government is making.
Yeah.
But they're the federal government, and they're trying to do everything humanly possible to march into this county and to do this kind of stuff. And so I am resisting that, and we still have the Constitution behind us.
Right. Hopefully
we still have
that's
the courts,
the last resort.
and we still, you know, they're not able to just unilaterally dictate new terms to a settlement that was agreed upon and make changes to those 38
I think on this
pages.
issue, you certainly not only you know, did very well, but you really earned a lot of people's support, including bipartisan.
Yeah.
And that's very, very commendable.
Well, thank you.
Well, on this, let me ask you a couple of sort of personal questions,
Sure.
because I really admire you as a politician or executive. Either way, you manage your time very well. You are able to function efficiently, get people to work, you know, efficiently, and yet I can see you care about your family, you have your family life, and you just like one of us, right? In fact, I think many of us probably not able to manage the way you manage tonight.
You know what cracks me up?
Tell us the secret there.
Well, look, you know, I think the biggest thing for an executive is to set a clear path, clear goals, and expectations for people who work for him or her.
Right.
And so that's what I do. You know, I'm not involved in every little minute decision. That's not my job. My job is to say, this is what I want to get done. This is how I want to get done. Go do it.
Yeah.
And report back to me so I can see the progress. And to share that vision and communicate with people around the county. To be accessible. I laugh when, you know, I drive to the A&P, I'm shopping, and people come up to me and say, you do your own shopping? I'm like, of course I do my own shopping. There's a great sale today on butter. Yeah, you know, and look, you know, I have a family. My wife and I have 3 little kids, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an almost 4-year-old.
Right, yeah.
And like any father or husband, I want the best for them.
Yeah.
And so they need me, and I need them, and I got to find that balance,
Right.
because
That's
this is
the
an
key,
all-consuming job. And I remember former county executive Andy O'Rourke said to me in 2009, we had dinner before I was sworn in, and he said, you know, you have little kids and a wife. The day has to end. There's always tomorrow. Go home to your family.
Right.
They'll keep you grounded.
Yeah.
You need the hugs, and you need to be home.
Right.
And so that doesn't happen every night. You know, we get like
But
300
certainly, yeah,
invitations a
certainly,
month to go to different things, and we pick some to go to. But you know, at the end of my life, I don't want to be remembered as the county executive who did X, Y, and Z. I'm sure that will be part of it. But I want to be remembered as the father of 3.
You have full life,
husband.
yeah.
That's what at the end means the most.
Right. Yeah, very good. Well, this is the most admirable part, I think, you know, to be able to do it this way. And I see sometimes people say, oh, politicians, they have to campaign every day. They are, you know, sort of
well, that is the worst part
life.
of this job. You know, it's great and it's bad. You know, in the campaign now, I'm up at 5:15 every morning. I'm at a train station. We're going nonstop till you know 10 o'clock at night, and I try to sneak home to catch a little time. But for you know a 60-day period, it's a sprint, unfortunately. But it's a big county. There's
Right.
a million people and a lot of
this-
square miles to cover.
That is very taxing, yeah.
Yeah, and
well,
going from
I hope our show or any other, you know, interview you do, that reach people. People really pay attention, listen to you, and instead of say, you know, what party line this and
Yeah.
that. I think we are, you know, proud ourselves to be democratic country, and we are probably the champion of democracy. But I think sometimes I feel that we sort of plateaued. We're not growing in this democracy. Our people seem to be staying, you know, okay, we go there to vote, that's it. But,
If that, people aren't even voting anymore.
yeah, the vote.
Unless Lady Gaga tells them to. You know, she tweets, go vote, and who to vote for, then people go. I hope and pray that people get more active.
Right.
You know, get active in your community, volunteer, take part in what's going on around you. Learn the issues, because it matters who you vote for on a school board. It matters who you vote for your town, for your county,
Right,
etc.
right, right.
People go out and they vote every 4 years for the president and feel good, and that's nice. But you know, there's a lot happening locally.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we are running out of time. You know, I'd like to ask your permission to use some of your video to get the end of this program. Because I
sure,
think
a day in the life. Yeah,
right. And also, maybe you want to say a few words to the you know, general audience, get their votes.
Well, look, I've been proud of what I've done for 4 years in protecting our communities from the federal government. I'll continue to do that, from promoting economic growth, from preserving essential services, which are so important these days, and for protecting the taxpayer and holding line on taxes. And so I would ask people for your vote, no matter what party you're in. I'd ask for your vote on November 5th for a second term, and I'd be very honored to be able to do that.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for